Mmathebe is in her own right a finance professional. She's a qualified CA with a lot of experience in funding startups and also developing entrepreneurs. And currently her work at Telecom is actually involving designing, executing, and managing and monitoring compliance of ESD. Mmathebe, we are so privileged to have you address us this morning, just to reflect on whether we have what it takes to be a supplier development incubator for a corporate client. Your reflections based on your experience. Over to you, Mmathebe.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. And thank you to both EDSE and CEDA for having me. My topic today is really about that. It's about the value that incubators can create for both corporates. And actually, I push a little bit more for incubators to really think about creating value beyond corporate supply chains. So I want to really just start with two questions that would lead us to reflect on the purpose of incubators and, by extension, accelerators. What are the key shifts that are redefining the world as we know it? And how do we use incubators to create economic value through entrepreneurship and innovation? The world has been changing rapidly over the past few years. Before COVID-19, we were already seeing how corporates were really put under pressure by what we call the fourth industrial revolution. We saw how many corporates, in an attempt to stay profitable, were really letting go of some of their staff, cutting budgets, and really holding back on investment. COVID-19 really accelerated that phenomenon. It really has been called a crisis like no other. And this is really by the IMF. We've already seen how global growth has declined by 4.9%. And in fact, it's projected to decline by 4.9% by the IMF. And we've already seen how our own country has contracted by 1.4% in the first quarter of 2020. It is clear that the role of entrepreneurship and innovation has now become critical. It is important to see incubators not only as supplier development vehicles for corporates, but as a critical role player in the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem of our country. This means that incubators are important to developing competitive advantage, both at a micro and macro level. Success for incubators, therefore, does not only look like corporate supply chains, but the additional economic value that is unlocked through entrepreneurship and innovation should really be the purpose of incubators. Incubators are important in helping entrepreneurs spot opportunities, take their ideas to market, and commercialize them. They are critical to a thriving entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem beyond the corporate supply chain. One of the elements of BBBE that I truly appreciate is that it legislates the need for everyone to look at developing the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. However, this responsibility has been placed mostly in the hands of corporates, which has led to its own set of challenges as well as advantages. When we look at the context of corporates, we see them facing global challenges, which require them to impose strict risk management frameworks, but also to start looking for innovation within their own supply chains. When this happens, corporates are more likely to look for partners that help move them forward commercially. Of course, smarter corporates are likely to look for partners that move them forward both commercially as well as socially, thereby creating shared value. But we cannot deny the imperative of many corporates, especially now when it comes to supply chains, I mean, even a short delay in a supply chain can really cost a corporate really, really great impact on EBITDA margins. So where does this leave entrepreneurship, small businesses, innovation, compliance, and social responsibility? As you see, most of the supply chains in corporates are really under a lot of pressure, and COVID-19 has really emphasized that impact. While all the while they're trying to balance the complexity of large global supply chains and the rapidly changing global context. In my view, this is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to step up to the challenge and provide some of the solutions to complex corporate problems. It also means that as COVID-19 is completely redefining how we live, work, and play, entrepreneurs need to spot new opportunities that could even disrupt corporates themselves. Entrepreneurs also need to start solving for some of the complex human challenges that we have in this changing environment. In my view, the job is cut out for incubators. Corporates are looking for value from entrepreneurship so that they can increase their own innovation capacity. Our economy is desperate for entrepreneurs that can solve day-to-day challenges such as the access to water, electricity, education, and so on. Incubators are therefore no longer about generating enterprise development and supplier development points for ESD managers. They are now about partnering with entrepreneurs to solve real challenges. So what have we learned from COVID-19? Many corporates were really under pressure to respond to the global challenges, especially in their supply chains. So what they've done is they're changing their business models. The old ways of doing things no longer works in the post-COVID-19 environment. Competitive advantage is now based on intellectual property, services, data analytics, and technology ecosystems. Corporates are now wanting most of their suppliers to be locally based and to be as close as possible to their customers. They don't want to rely on one large supplier for a particular product or service anymore. And as they diversify their value chains, they are having to ensure that the entire value network is secure and cannot easily be attacked. As we would have seen from recent cyber attacks that have really, really left South Africa wondering on the safety of cybersecurity controls that they have or the adequacy thereof. Corporates are now balancing the need to be as resilient as possible by doing the above with cost, whereas in the past the emphasis was more on cost. So whoever was the cheapest really was the winner. This often meant that small players were instantly excluded as they didn't have scale. We're also seeing the rapid adoption of technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data analytics in the management of supply chains. Really, all of these attempts to build resilient supply chains by corporates mean that there are various opportunities for entrepreneurs to partner with corporates. The important thing here is that the quality of the potential solution must add value and it must be differentiated. So what does this mean for entrepreneurs and supplier development strategies? This is really the golden opportunity for many entrepreneurs to help define a changing world and to solve some of the most complex problems, both in corporate supply chains and for the end customer who often faces many social challenges. For instance, we need entrepreneurs that will provide a solution to a new business model in a corporate, as well as those that will solve for problems in our public healthcare system, education, as well as electricity. This means supply development and by extension, enterprise development strategies have to think about the ways to partner with entrepreneurs to enable this. Incubators are partners to entrepreneurs in the quest to value creation. They're not simply oversight and monitoring tools. They are there to help the entrepreneur test his or her assumptions and validate them through concrete data. They are there to help entrepreneurs develop the first prototype of their product and to test its adoption, and not just to collect bank statements and financial information. They are the true partners to entrepreneurs. There are really four things that I believe an incubator should do well to build a pipeline of entrepreneurs that can respond to some of the most complex challenges that I mentioned earlier. One, focus on the team building the venture and help them to develop what we call entrepreneurial cognition or thinking. This is a way of thinking that enables entrepreneurs to spot opportunities, predict their environments, and predict best responses. Two, focus on strategy models that are tailored to entrepreneurs and account for the disruptive nature of the fourth industrial revolution and COVID-19. Three, innovation is the recipe for entrepreneurship. We must help entrepreneurs develop products and solutions that are different from what already exists. The complex environment means we have to create both social and commercial value. Four, the operations of an entrepreneur must be such that there is a rapid prototyping and use of technologies to build on competitive advantage. Often entrepreneurs do not have the labs to help them develop multiple versions of their products and to test them. This is the role of the incubator. So far, incubators have really applied traditional models to developing small businesses in our country, which typically do not work as well. For instance, in an attempt to help the small business to manage its employees, an incubator will put into place an employment contract and policy and say that is sufficient to help that entrepreneur. It is great that small businesses owners have the ability then to record keep and keep track of their affairs. However, that is really a hygiene factor. We should be aiming for entrepreneurs to demonstrate unique value propositions and have unparalleled executions that are able to compete on the global stage. My parting...
You've got 2 minutes more to go, Mmathebe, so if you can kindly wind up. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for that. My parting words are on the concept of innovation. Innovation is both an art and a science. There are clear strategies that can be implemented to cultivate innovation. Incubators have been monitoring and providing oversight vehicles over small businesses for far too long. In my view, this needs to shift. I would encourage our incubators to be centers of excellence of innovation for entrepreneurs. It is only when we have a clear strategy around innovation that we can begin to add value to both corporate supply chains and the societies we live in. With these last words, I thank you and hope that you found this presentation useful.
Thank you so much, Mmathebe, for that presentation. Very insightful.